about 6, 7 years ago when I got a Alexa for Christmas that year. My parents are old school, and my dad was strictly against having the Alexa, even taken out of the box. It took months of begging and pleading before I could set it up, with conditions, of course. It had to be in my room only, nowhere else in the house, just my room. When I was not speaking to it or using it, it was either on mute or unplugged. Do not talk personal matters around it. So like family matters, passwords, addresses were not to be said around Alexa, even if it was muted. So with those rules and probably a few more, I got to set up my Alexa. I had discovered a while after having it that you could play some guessing games on it. Being the only child at home and bored 99% of the time, I use this feature a lot, like honestly, almost too much. I agree. One night, while I was playing some guessing game and playing a game on my iPad, I had gotten a question wrong. I don't remember the question or what I answered. I only remember what Alexa said. It was something about the lines of wrong. Now listen close. Obviously, this catches my attention, and I stop what I'm doing, and I look at my Alexa. Right on cue, she continues in this horrifying whisper, raspy voice. Don't look behind you. Needless to say, I unplugged my Alexa and refused to use it for months, years after that. Y'all have an Alexa. Y'all better be careful with it. The next story is called The Girl on the Dead Log. When I was in my early 20s, I used to jog through a massive cemetery called Hillside, just outside of Philly. When I came home from Temple U to visit my mom, I loved jogging through there because it was so quiet and peaceful, aside from the sounds of nature. One very late afternoon, dusk, I was jogging through the main part of the cemetery and started to move along a small surface road deeper in the cemetery, about half-miles long, that connects to another cemetery in an adjacent town called Ardsley Cemetery. There are roughly 100 yards of uncut grass lands, weeds, on both sides of the little road that lead to dense forests, with one side, on the left, leading to fenced-off railroad tracks surrounded by trees that ran through the area. As I approached midpoint, I noticed a teenish girl sitting on a massive dead log, stripped of bark. To the left, that must have been dragged out somehow close to the road and fallen from the woods. She was distinctly wearing 70s clothes, a retro fad in the early 90s, with massive bare bottoms, scruffy white blouse, crazy sandy blonde hair, parted in the middle, and leather sandals. She did not face me as I approached her, and she just kept her head facing the dark woods across the other side of the road. But I know she must have heard me hitting the pavement as I approached her. So now, we are the only people on this old little service road with no one in front or behind as I passed between the two cemeteries. As I approached her and crossed her line of sight, she quickly shifted her eyes towards me as I said hi, and I was shocked, stunned, blasted by the weirdness of her face, with larger than normal eyes, a tiny nose, thin, small mouth, and whiteness of her skin. In her eyes, they were white blue, like Siberian husky, with a mass of dark rings around the irises. She said nothing back and just stared at me, expressionlessly, as I stumbled past. say stumbled because I immediately felt this force hit my perception when we locked eyes, which made everything super detailed, like when you tripping, and surreal. I could no longer hear the sound of my own shoes hitting the pavement anymore for those endless seconds. Deafness, no sounds, not even the crickets, and time seemed to slow down as if I were jogging in slow motion. Disoriented as I was, I continued along the road past her toward the other cemetery for about 5-7 seconds, and my curiosity got the better of me, so I turned around to jog back, but she was completely gone. Nothing there but this huge dead log. I checked all around it, nothing. Now I know the area quite well, and there's absolutely no way she could have loved. My new line of sight unless she sprinted 100 yards to the woods in less than 7 seconds. Impossible. Especially in her clothes. I scanned the tree lines and nothing. Just darkening woods as the sun fell below the tree line, but a feeling I was being watched. Again, no sound of crickets. Hairs on my neck and arms standing on end despite heavy sweating from the run. I think I did a 7-mile out there that way home before the sun completely dropped. It gives me the chills every time I think about the face and those piercing eyes. Suffice to say, I never felt the urge to jog through there again. Maybe she was a ghost. She was coming to get you. Time for the third story. It's called Hat Man. When I was in my teens, to be like 15 years old, I encountered one of those dark entities that I haven't ever heard about. The one with the black hat. The first night I saw him, I was having a really weird dream that was in a dark room with no light around me, like a small spotlight on me, and I could feel someone watching me, but couldn't see who or what was looking at me. I remember that night, I woke up scared and looking around my room. My bedroom was small, and my bed was right in front of the door, and when I turned to see the door, there it was. A super tall, dark shadow in my door. Hence, my door was the color white. So this thing was clearly visible. I couldn't see a face, but I could see that in the top of his head was a head shaped. I cleared my eyes just to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. But when I opened my eyes again from rubbing them, it was still there. I was scared, and I could feel my skin getting hot as that thing stood there. I couldn't sleep that night, and I just sat there looking at that thing because I thought maybe if I looked at it, it won't try to attack me or something. But until this day, I still think about it mostly because I told other people about this story, and they told me that they also seen it, and it's called the Hat Man. The next one is called Curse Doll. This isn't anything like Annabelle. It might be a bit anticlimactic, but bear with me. My grandmother was Wiccan and could hear, see, sense things, and that was passed down to me and one of my cousins. I seen, heard, and experienced a lot of things, but nothing really bad until my mom had gotten a little doll from Africa that she kept on the top of her entertainment center. I had bad vibes about that doll from day one and told my mom a few times that she could get rid of it. Being the extreme realist she has always said, it's just a doll. She liked it and was directly from Africa and would stand there. It was additionally just a sense of unease, but that feeling grew stronger to where you could feel the hate that this doll was giving out. It came to a head one evening when I was over visiting. This doll sat in the center of the unit looking out over the living room. was at the far end of the living room, and I was in the kitchen getting a drink, and when she went silent in the middle of a sentence, I came back in to see her standing and staring at the doll. It was no longer in the center, but was now at the edge. It had turned 90 degrees and appeared to be staring at my mom with such fierce hate that even my mom could feel it. She got as far as what? When the doll fell out the entertainment unit and onto the floor, my mom let out a small shriek while I was grabbed a sheet and threw it over the doll, and I called my grandma to let her know what happened. She said she'd be right over and to wait outside until she got there. Even getting to the front door was a challenge, as this thing was draining the energy in the room, and we were getting weaker until we got outside and things were a little better. My grandma got there about 10 minutes, and I followed her into the house. It was kind of as my grandma was a 4'11" sweet little English lady with a sweet disposition and never had a bad word about anyone. She walked into the living room, and with a strong voice I never heard from her before. "All right, that's enough." She walked over, lifted up the sheet, grabbed the doll, and put it in a small beige bag she was carrying with her. She walked over to my mom and reverted back to sweet little old English lady. "Don't worry, dear. I cleans the doll, and you won't have to worry anymore." Then she got back in the van and drove off. My mom was still a little freaked and spent the night in my place, as there was no way she was staying at her house that night. Went to my grandparents' house about a week later. My grandma went up to the attic and came back down with the doll. My mom shrank back, but my grandma handed the doll to me. I took it and felt absolutely nothing. Whatever she had done to the doll worked. My mom tentatively took it and relaxed. It's back at my mom's house now, but not on the entertainment center. It's on a bookshelf in a well-lighted corner of the living room. Wow. To be honest, I would have just burnt that doll and got rid of it. The next one is whispering phone. Last week, I experienced something eerie that I can't seem to shake off. It was in the dead of the night when I was stirred awake by whispers. It sounded like hushed conversation happening right next to me, and the strangeness of the situation jolted me awake. I opened my eyes to search for the source of the whispers, but saw nothing except for a strange dark red glow emanating from my phone. As I reached out to grab my phone, the screen suddenly went black. I hurried, checked around the apps to see if anything was running that could have caused the whispers or the red screen, but found nothing. This time was 3:41 a.m., and an odd hour for anything like this to happen. I initially brushed it off, thinking maybe I was dreaming or my sleepy state had conjured up the whispers and the red glow. But the next day, as I was walking home from work, the same eerie whispering echoed around me. My heart raced as I picked up the pace, but then I saw them, two dark figures lingering a few paces behind me. They seemed to disappear as quickly as they had appeared, fading into the shadows. I shared my strange encounters with a friend and was met with a similar story that happened to them just yesterday. They too were awakened by whispers, saw their phone lit up for a moment, only to go black as they reached out for it. Now, as I lay awake at night, I can't help but wonder if those whispers will return, or if the dark figures will emerge from the the shadows once more. The eeriness of the events has left a lingering fear, a chill that runs down my spine whenever I recall the whispers and that fleeting glimpse of the dark figures in the fading daylight. And the thought that this wasn't merely my imagination, but something my friend experienced too, makes it all more unsettling.